Hey, welcome to another Patreon exclusive tutorial here. In this tutorial, I'm going to be breaking down how to make another one of my shots from my short film Mitosis. It's this one you're going to see here, which is this sort of hairy grass seaweed coral. I don't even know what the hell you would call this thing with like a water droplet going through it. It's just like an abstract effect thing, but it's actually pretty simple. We're going to be using Vellum to simulate some hair, and I'll show you kind of how I animated this water droplet. It should be a pretty simple, hopefully quick tutorial, but yeah, let's get started. So here we are in Houdini. Let's just put down a geo, and I'm going to actually create a new project here. So let's see. If you've never done this, I always do this at the start of a project. Just do new project, so you can use the $job, which is really nice. So I'll show you that in a second. So let's just call this coral, I don't know, abstract water seaweed. Fuck, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe what this effect is. So that's what it's going to be. And then let's go navigate to where we want to put it. Oops. Patreon, coral grass, water, and we'll put it there. And then hit accept. And then when we save, if you go to $job, you just coral seaweed water thing. Cool. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is set up our Vellum sim. So let's just call this Vellum hair, and then dive in, and we'll put down a grid. Okay, so this is going to be kind of our simulation area, and then what I want to do is scatter a bunch of points across it, and let's do like a lot more, like, yeah, maybe like 15,000. Cool. Okay, and then we need to put down a line. So let's turn on the points so we can see how many we have. Let's give it like, yeah, 16. And let's also give it a length of like 3. Make it a little longer there. And then let's go back to our scatter here. Let's put down a copy to points. And I don't want that. I want, no, that's the right thing. So I want to copy this line to these points. Okay, and then I want to pin the bottom points. So let's see, they are sitting on the 0. So there's a few ways I could do this. Let me put down a group, and let's go points, and let's do keep in bounding regions. So I'm just going to increase the size of this, and then I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard so I can actually see my box, and I'm just going to drag this down so just the first points get selected. Cool. And then we're going to call this pin. Great. Easy enough. And then let's type in Vellum hair and Vellum solver. Okay, there we go. Cool. So if we go to the Vellum hair thing, this node contains all the information that dictates what the hair is going to behave like. So the first thing I want to do is I want to pin my points. So come to this little box here and click my pin group. And yeah, that should be good. Okay. And then in the Vellum solver, I want to come to the forces tab, and I want to turn off gravity because we are underwater and I want this to sort of flow around and feel very floaty. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do, actually, just to help myself see this a little better, I want to put down a connectivity SOP here. Put it after the Vellum, and that'll give us this class attribute. And then if I hover over the little node and click the eye, I can click on class to visualize it, and it'll basically assign a random color per primitive. So it just helps me kind of see a little bit better what's happening sometimes when there's like a million hairs. Okay, so right now, if I hit play, probably nothing is going to happen because there's no forces, there's no gravity, nothing. Okay, so what I want to do is dive into the Vellum solver and put down a pop force. And I just want to increase the amplitude to 1 and just to give it some like noise here. And let's see what that does. So it should start moving everything. Great. It's totally working. All right, so we've got our basic Vellum sim there set up. And I probably want some bigger, broader noise. So let's increase the swirl scale to like 2 and the amplitude, let's keep it at 1. And then maybe put down another pop force. Sometimes it's nice to do 2 different noises. So you have one that's like a larger, broader one, and then let's do one that's like the amplitude of like 0.5 and the swirl scale of 0.8. And let's just, I don't know, offset it a little bit. Let's see what that does. Cool. And I'll probably end up putting some drag in here too, just to make sure it feels like it's underwater. And the other thing I might want to do is I might want to add a force going upward. So in this one, I might hit, let's just do like 0.6 in Y. So that'll give me a force, a directional force going upwards as well, so that these don't ever just like fall down to the ground completely. Okay, so we've got our Vellum sim. Now what do we want to do? So now I want to animate this like sphere thing going across and use it as a collider. So let's put down a sphere and let's highlight it. Let's make it a polygon and increase the frequency a bunch to like 10. Let's also make this a little bigger like that. So let me compare it to these. Yeah, that should be good. Maybe a little smaller like that. Okay. And then I want to put down a mountain sop. Actually, I want to first put down a transform. Like this. And let's template that so I can see what I'm doing. And let's grab this and just bring it over here. And let me just kind of line it up. So maybe it does need to be a little bigger, maybe like that. Okay. And let's bring it down just a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to give it, let me turn off this brain here so this doesn't simulate. I'm going to start this at 24 seconds because I want to have about 24 frames. I want to have about 24 frames of lead time to allow this Vellum sim to sort of start flowing before I animate this ball across. But then let's take, let's see what direction we're going here. Is this Z direction? Okay, so let's hit Alt and click there to put down a keyframe there. And then let's go ahead to like frame 120. I want this to be kind of slow. And just, actually, I think maybe like 96. I don't think it needed to be that slow. And just animate this across linearly and come in here, like to highlight this and just set it to linear so that it's just a consistent across. Something like that. We'll try that. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to put down a mountain sop. So go mountain, and that'll just give me some noise. And I want to make this, the element size, maybe a little bigger, like this. Maybe the amplitude, something like that. And I think I want the roughness to be kind of low because I want this to feel kind of like a water droplet and not spiky. So the reason I'm putting the mountain sop after the transform is because I want this to, the noise, it's a position-based noise. So basically I want this to feel like it's moving through the noise. So if I had put the mountain sop before the transform, then it's not going to do that. It's just going to stay there. But if I put it after, then what happens is I'm now moving the sphere through the noise and it looks like it's animating, which I like. So in some cases you wouldn't want that, but I actually really liked that effect. Cool. Okay, so I've got that. And then the next thing I need to do is I just need to use this as a collider in my Vellum sim. So all I have to do is there's this third little input is just put that in there. And then let's just highlight this. And let's highlight this. And if I come over to my mountain and I hover over the purple thing and hit Control and click it, then both of them appear fully opaque. They're not, one of them isn't like half transparent. So let's just hit play and see what we get. Oh, I need to enable my brain there. And let's see, okay, so it starts. Make sure those collisions are working, and it appears to be working. So cool, it is working. It's passing through like that, and then obviously we're going to position the camera nice and close like this. Cool. Okay, so that is working. I think maybe I'm just going to run a quick flip book here because I want to see how fast it's moving actually, and I want to see if I really need any drag or anything like that. So let's do, let's just do start to end and let's see what that does. Okay, so we've got the flip book here. So I think after seeing it in real time here that my hairs are moving at the right speed. They feel very flowy and loose and sort of gravity-less like it would be underwater. But I think something I want to change that. I think that actually the sphere is moving too quickly. I want that to feel really nice and slow. I think I want to make the sphere maybe a little bigger, or maybe just sort of move it down in the Y direction a little bit so that it's sort of deeper in the grass. And then I want to have some, if you notice, you can kind of see where the grass ends here. So I might make my simulation area just a little bit bigger. So let's try that. So let me just, first thing first, let's take the sphere, let's move it, hit enter on the keyboard, just move it down just a bit so that it's like more deep into the grass. Okay, and then I think I want to come up here to the grid and let's position our camera like where we might have it positioned, and let's just make this a little, oops, shit, go to the grid. Make it just a little bigger like that. And then let's see what that looks like with the copy to points. I may need to increase the density of my hairs. It's probably fine. Maybe just scatter, let's just do 1600. Something like that, okay? And then now that I've increased this needs to kind of come back. So let's turn this off so I can scrub ahead, move this out of the grass, and then I want to just take this, actually let me just hit shift and enter on here and move this from 96 to, let's go like 144. So now instead of ending at frame 96, it ends at frame 144. It should be a little slower, which I think is going to help it feel a little more flowy and underwatery. Cool. Okay, let's turn this back on and hit shift on the keyboard to, oh, come on. Interesting. Why is it not? I need to probably hit reset simulation. There we go. Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's do another flip book here. And we just kind of come in close to where it's going to be, like here. Something like this. Okay, and then I'll just run a flip book. Okay, so I've got another flip book here, and it's looking good, but then I'm realizing that all of these hairs start flying up, and what did I do? Okay, so I forgot to, because I increased the size of this palette that is holding all of my hairs, I forgot to increase the size of my group for pinning them. So I need to come in here, hit enter, and just extend this out here and extend this out there. So there are a bunch of hairs that weren't being pinned that were flying up. And also, now that I'm looking at this, I think that my sphere should be maybe a little bigger and probably still move a little bit slower even. Okay, so let's disable that. Let's come to hit, the transform, come back in here, And let's change this from 144 to like 192. So that should be better. And then let's also make this like a little bigger like that. And move it, turn the brain off here so I can come forward. Just move it out a bit. Okay, that should be good. Okay, and let's hit the connectivity. Oh, another thing I want to do while I'm thinking of it is eventually I'm going to want a curve U attribute on each of these little lines so that I can use it for texturing later. So let's just do that here up on a line. So let's put down a resample. And we don't actually need to resample the points. I don't want to do that. So we'll turn this off. Yeah, let's just turn this off there. All I need is the curve U attribute. So it should have the same number of points as it did before, but now I have this curve U attribute that I can then visualize. And if I turn off the points, you can see it better. So that gives me an attribute from 0 to 1 across the line, and I can use that for shading later in Redshift. So I can adjust the scale of the sweep that I'm going to put on it, or I can color it in a cool way that'll come in handy later. So we're definitely going to want that. Let me just stop visualizing that. Actually, it might come in handy to visualize it here. I'll need to re-enable the simulation, hit reset simulation, and then the curve U should be coming through there. So that might actually be helpful to see because you'll see when it bends through. Okay, so let me kind of come back in here, get a little closer, and then run another flipbook. Okay, so we've got a new flipbook here. Let me make this a little bigger. I think this is starting to look pretty good. The grass is moving the way I want it to move. I think the ball is moving at about the speed I want it to move. We've got our curve U attribute. Everything's at the right size. I think we're doing pretty good. So the next step here is now I want to make it so that this sphere sort of leaves a colorful trail behind it and actually changes the color of the grass. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. We're going to use an attribute transfer and a SOP. So the first thing I want to do is I want to come here. I'm going to stop visualizing class. And actually, I probably want to, I want to cache this simulation. So let's do Vellum IO. And let's run a cache first. We'll just call this coral hair, I don't know, coral hair, fine. And then we just run this cache really quick. Actually, let me interrupt it. I want to change this to $job because that'll save it in the folder that I set up earlier. So do that, save disk. Okay, so I've got my cache here. Let me just come out here and I should be able to just scrub through. Great. So I've got it cached. So I want to set it up so that this sphere has a color attribute that then transfers onto this as it passes by, and not only just transfers, but it stays on there. So the first thing I need to do is the coral hair. I need to set up, put down a color. Cool, and I want it to be white. Great, just like that. And then over here, let's drop down another color onto our sphere, and let's make it black. Why can I not see it? Oh, there we go, because I was templating that one. Okay, so I've got it black. And so basically what you want to do is you want to use an attribute transfer. So that allows you to take one attribute from one piece of geo and transfer it to another piece. So I want to transfer, it says geometry to transfer attributes to, which would be this one, and geometry to transfer attributes from, which is this one. Okay, so obviously, it's working, but it's like the radius is gigantic. So I want to come into the conditions here, and I want to take the distance threshold way down so that it's just really close to this sphere. So I want it to be like just in front of it like that. And maybe the blend width, you can kind of make it a little more kind of faded out. So I kind of want it to be like this. So as this goes through, it's affecting the area immediately around it. But what I want it to do is I want it to pass through, and I want that color, once it turns black, I want it to stay so that there's like this line, this like path through it. So let's do, basically all I have to do is take this and put it inside of a SOP, or a solver, a SOP solver. So let's take this first guy here and put it into the first geo input, and the second guy there and put it into the second input, and just shake this loose. And let me just or I guess I don't need to shake it loose. Let's leave it on there. Damn it. Go back. What have I done? First, second. Okay, let me just copy this, and then we will come in here to the first thing. Let's go inside the solver. Let's drop this down. So I want to connect this here, and then I want to connect this guy to input 2. And that should do it. Let's see. Template that out. So it's working, but it's not staying. Why is that? It's also not simulating. Let me come up. Let's see what that's doing. Interesting. So it's working, but the simulation, for whatever reason, is not doing anything. Like the simulation of the color is working, but the simulation of my coral hair isn't moving around. So I'm not sure why that is. That's strange. Huh. Okay, so that's working as expected. That's doing what I want it to do with the color. But why are my hairs not moving? Well, okay, so I'm not sure. Let me try initial state. Is this? Let's see if that does anything. Nope. Okay, that doesn't affect anything. Okay, let's hit reset simulation. Nope. Okay, well, here's what we can do. I can take, I'll just use a point deform. So point deform, this is easy enough. Here's the mesh that I want to deform. Here's the rest point lattice, and here is the deformed point lattice. And that should just allow me to, there we go, problem solved. So essentially, I'm just taking a point deform. If you've never used it before, is great. It allows you to just deform one piece of geometry, basically make this geometry that's coming out of here do exactly what this original one was doing. So I have this static geo here that's not doing anything, and I want it to move just like this one. And it's based on a distance threshold. And fortunately, these are both, it's exact same geo at the start. So it's like the exact same amount of points. The lines are aligned in the exact same direction. So I don't really have to do anything. It's just going to automatically deform those points for me. So it's working. There we go. Now the color is staying. I think maybe I want the color to sort of fade off after a little bit. So I don't want it to just stay forever. So the way I can do that is if I come back into this solver, I can put down, let's put down a wrangle. And let's do at CD, which is the little, oh shit, what have I done? Which is the little code for color. At CD, let's do times equals 0.8. So what that's going to do, so times equals, if you don't know, means basically it's the same thing as writing equals at CD times 0.8. It's just a shorter way of writing that. It's like you're multiplying basically CD times 0.8. So it's times equals 0.8. So that's what, for every frame, it's multiplying by 0.8, which is going to make it reduce down to 0 eventually. So let's try and see if that works. Let's see if that does anything. Nope. It's not doing exactly what I want. It's multiplying the whole thing down. So let me figure this out here. All right, I figured it out. So I remember why. So it's doing what I want, but since this base color is white, the value is 1. So essentially it's multiplying all of this white color by 0.8 every frame. So over time, it eventually goes down to black, which is not what I want to happen. I want that to only happen in the little line in the path that's left by the ball. So I think what actually I need to do is reverse these colors. So if I make the grass black, it doesn't really matter which color it is, as long as one's white and one's black. And then I want this to be white. So now the path it's going to leave is white. The whole thing is being multiplied by 0.8. So it's all going down to 0 eventually. But since this is already at 0, which is black, you're not going to see a difference. You'll only see the difference in the path. So let me hit play, and you can see what's going to happen here. So it's starting out white. Great. But then it's sort of fading off. I think it's fading off a little too quickly. So maybe I need to multiply it by something a little higher. Let's try like 0.95. So that it fades out slower. Let's see what that does. So now it's staying on for a while. So it's bright up there, and then it sort of fades to black eventually. I think that looks a lot better. Cool, so that solved the issue. Just needed to make sure that the color that I'm multiplying down to 0 is the color of the path. Otherwise the whole thing's gonna get multiplied. Okay, great. So that is that. So now the next thing I want to do, there's 2 things I need to do left. One is I need to sweep these little hairs and texture them. And the other thing I need to do is in my original video, inside this sphere, there were some like other little colorful spheres that were moving along with it. So I want to show you how I did that. It's very simple. So why don't we start with that first? So let's go up to, so I can get rid of this actually, I don't need this guy anymore. Let me come over to this ball. Now let's go to the first frame. And what I want to do is I want to put down an ISO offset, or let's do a VDB from polygons. Okay, and I want a fog VDB. And let's change the voxel size to be 0.05. And then what I want to do is I want to scatter some points on the inside of this. So if I hit scatter, and let's turn off relax iteration so they're more random. And then let me just bring this down to like just a few like that. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to put down a copy to points and a sphere. And I want to reverse these. So now I have this sphere that's copied to these points. Now this is way too big and it's not random enough. I want these to be more randomized. So let's put down a attribute adjust float. And by default, it's set to p-scale. They all disappear because the operation is set to add, but I want to set initial. And then instead of a constant value, I want random. And then I can just adjust this here. I don't want the lowest ones to be 0. The lowest one should be like 0.2. And these ones can be like that. Okay, cool. So that's great. But now let's template this guy. And you can see there's a few that are kind of sticking out that I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete some of the points. And I'll just do that manually. I mean, there's only a few sticking out. So let's just grab this guy. Actually, I'll do it at the point level. So let me just template this. And template this guy. Oh, damn it. How can I do this? What's the best way? Why don't I do... Oh yeah, if I hit W on the keyboard, it changes to wireframe mode. I think that's helpful because then I can see through this sphere and I can see which spheres are like passing through. Okay, and then I want to click... no, I don't want that. Oh, wait, what's the best way to do this? I don't want to see these. I don't want to see this guy. I just want these. And then, yeah, there we go. So let me just find, like, that looks like it's too close to the surface. That looks like it's too close to the surface. I think there were some others. It's kind of horrible. For now, let's just hit delete and it'll blast those and let's see. Is that it? Or was there one more? Okay, that one too. Looks like it's too close to the surface. So let's come back here. Let's turn this guy off and just highlight it, hit delete. Okay. And that should be good. It's not the most procedural way to do it, but fuck it, I don't really give a shit. Sometimes I just need to delete some shit quickly. Okay, great. So we've got our sphere, we've got our points set up inside it. So now what I want it to do is I want to get these points here to move with this. So right now, every time this is going to move, all the points are going to scatter and it's not working. I don't want that. I want them to deform perfectly with this. So we can just use a point deform again. So let's do point deform. And we'll go, the mesh to deform is this. The rest point lattice is this. And the deformed point lattice, I think this is how I want to do it. No. Let's see. I think I might actually want to use a, yeah, so in this scatter node, I'll use a prim num and prim uv, and we'll use a attribute interpolate. So the attribute, the destination geometry should be this, I think. The source of the attributes to interpolate, I think that's it. Maybe I reverse it. Yeah. Let's see, is that going to work? Okay, I think I know what the problem is. So we aren't going to use the attribute interpolate. We are going to use the point deform like I originally planned. So what I need is a mesh to deform. So the thing I want to deform are these points right here. Cool. And then I need a rest point lattice. So this needs to be time shifted. So let me just put this in here and let's go delete channel and set it to frame 1. So this needs, so time shift will then just lock this in. So these points will not move. They're just stopped at point 1 or at frame 1. So that's going to be my rest point lattice. And then my deformed point lattice is going to be this guy up here that's moving. And that should, oh, you son of a bitch. Actually, maybe the rest point lattice needs to be this up here. And then I think I need to time shift this as well so that this VDB isn't moving. So I've got this locked in at 0. This guy here, let's untemplate this, locked in at 0. And then the actual deforming point lattice here is not time shifted. So that should do it. Yes, there we go. That's working. Okay, and now I want to put the copy to points back on there. And if let's take all of these, let's merge them together. And I want this merged in as well. And let's just do a visualize, or let's see, visibility. Can I do this? Action, hide primitives, no. I think I want, I think I can just use this visibility, the visualize node, and I think I can go wireframe, force wireframe. There. So now I can see through the sphere, I can see my little other sphere thingies inside of it, and I can see my whole simulation. So let's just save it and hit play and see what happens. There. It's working exactly the way I want it to. So now I can start texturing this. I can add a glass material or a water material on the sphere and have some colorful ones on the inside. You can see through it. Our path is working. We've got our trail working the way we want it to. So everything is working as expected. So let's just, first let's drop down some nulls so we can see what we're doing here. So this one is my hairs. So we'll call out hairs. And let's make this black so I can see it. And then I can get rid of this visualize node. But I do want a null and I want to put it here, and we'll call this out sphere, make black, and I'm going to hit Shift S on the keyboard, and that'll make all my little strings nice and neat like that. And then the last thing is I need another null here. Call this out inner spheres. Cool. So I've got that. Okay, let's put down a connectivity. I want a connectivity node on here so I can have a class attribute on these. I'll use that for shading. My sphere, something I want is, let's put down a UV unwrap up here. So now it's got UVs, and when I deform it with the mountain, the UV should stick. Great, just in case I want to, I'm probably going to be shading this like glass anyway, so I probably won't need those UVs, but just in case, you never know. It's nice to have it. And then the hairs, do I have a class attribute? I do not. I think I removed my connectivity node. So let's put down another connectivity node, that way I have a class. Okay, great. So now what do we do? Well, the first thing, let's start with the look of the hairs. So first, let's separate these out. So this one, if we come up this Vellum hair node, I'm just going to leave that. This is going to be the node I use to texture my hairs. Let me just copy this out sphere, come up, make another geo node. We'll call it sphere, use an object merge, and then paste in that null. So now I have this as a separate object that I can turn on and off. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll call this spheres inner. And then if I come up here and I just change this to out sphere, I type inner, that should give me, oh, it doesn't do that. Shit, did I not name it that? Out inner spheres, that's why. Okay, let me just copy this. Gotta name it the right thing. There, now I have that as its own separate object. If I turn these off, so I can texture them all separately here. Makes it a little easier too. Also, if you use cryptomats in Redshift, cryptomats automatically detect each object and assign a mat to it. But if they're all in one geonode, it won't do that. It only detects them if they're each separate geonode. So that's something to be aware of too if you use cryptomats, which I do all the time. Okay, so let's start with the Vellum hair. Let's start by texturing this guy. And let me just put down RS dome. I'm just going to put down a light dome. Oops, let me change this to my basic thing here so that I can have access to my OD asset library. I'll come to HDRIs. I'm just going to grab a random HDRI. Let's just do like a, I don't know, modern industrial and something just somewhat like that. Cool. Let me change this to yellow so that I know that it's a light. Let's get out of here. And then in my light, I like to turn off enabled in viewports because that drives me nuts. And then environment, I turn off background as well because I don't actually want to see it. And then I need a camera. And let me just come into the camera, hit this lock icon, move around so I can I can be where I'm going to position it. And let's make this focal length. If we go to view, let's make this like 80. So that's going to make it a little easier to get nice and close without seeing past the edges of our simulation area here. So something like that would be good. Let me unlock it. Okay, and then let's just try this in Redshift first. So I haven't actually swept these with anything, but let's just see if I can do it in Redshift first. So let's do, let's fire up our render view. Come on. Here we go. Oh, it's nothing because I don't have any, I have nothing to look at. So it's showing me black because there's no geo in there. So if I go to my Vellum hair and I go to my Redshift object tag and go to strands and let's go render objects as strands. There we go. Now we have these little strips. It's kind of cool, right? I actually kind of like the strip look. But if I go, let's do cylinder. That'll give me more depth. But these are all, right now, they're like, or let's try, can I do cone? That's cool. So it's like thin at one end. That's kind of the look I'm going for, but I want it to be thicker. And I'm wondering, a capsule is nice because it gives you that rounded tip. Basically, I want to use my curve U attribute to affect the width of this, of the hairs as they're swept along the length of it. So let's see if I can do that. I think it uses P scale as a way to determine the width. So let's do, so let's come in here and let's just do this. Let's just go wrangle. And let's say at P scale equals at curve U. So basically my P scale is now my curve U. Let's see what that does. Okay, I have a feeling this is going to be maybe I broke it. Because it's from a scale of 1 to 0. I feel like it's going to be super wide on one end, and it's like calculating this because all of these are going to be like so gigantic and wide. That's why it's taking a minute. Okay, so I crashed my Houdini because I totally screwed it up, and it was a really obvious reason. And I'm actually going to show you guys a way better way to do this. So instead of using a wrangle, because why the hell would you use code when you could just use a node that Houdini provides to you? So we're going to use the attribute remap. So this node is great. I forget about it sometimes because sometimes I'm just used to using a wrangle, but why would you use code when you could just use a node? That's my philosophy. So basically what this does is it allows you to take an attribute and turn it into a different attribute and then remap it. So my original name is curve U. That's the attribute that I curve U. And I want curve U to become P scale. Okay? And curve U, remember, goes from 0 to 1. So 0, the value of 0 is going to be at the bottom, and a value of 1 is going to be at the top. So if I made that, if that's now P scale, that means it's going to be thick at the top and thin at the bottom. And I actually want the opposite of that. I want these to start out thick and then taper off as they get closer. So I'm going to take my value of 0 to 1 and I'm going to remap it. I'm going to flip it the other direction. So it's going to go from 1 to 0. Now I don't want it to be 1. I think that's too thick. I think I need to do like 0.2. 0.2 to 0. So let's try that. Let me go back into my camera. And that should do it. So let's fire this up. It's going to take a second. Come on. Yeah, that's working exactly as expected. So you can see, if I zoom in here, they're getting thin at the top and thick at the bottom. So I think 0.2 is a little too thick because they're you can see them like intersecting there. So let's try a value of 0.1. Now the other thing that's cool about this node is not only do I have access to these little sliders here, yeah, that looks better. I have a ramp here that I can use, so I can actually adjust the thickness so it's not just linear. So let me just let's take this and make these B-spline or B-spline. And then let's put another knot here. Let me just actually pause this because otherwise it's going to take a little minute to calculate. So let's put another knot here. So that way, let's make this also a B-spline. Are these not all B-splines? Come on. There. So that way I can have it start thick at the bottom and then it kind of retains its thickness and then sort of tapers off at the last minute. So here is the original. Let me take a picture of that so I can store it. And then let's just fire this up again and see what that looks like. So it should be a little thicker. Interesting. Why is it doing that? Oh, it's because I reversed the values up here, but I need to, okay, I think this is actually needs to come over here, this way. And then let's take this and make the value like that. There we go. That's working. So it's a little confusing because the ramp isn't actually, it's not facing the right direction because I reversed the values up here. So what you could do is what I'm doing right now, which is just say fuck it and just put a knot in here. And even though this shape does not represent the shape of this, it's doing what I want it to do. The other thing that would actually be easier, it's probably a lot easier to comprehend, is just leave this at 0 to 1. Just the original, so I'm no longer remapping this. Let's get rid of this knot. And then just flip this the other direction. That essentially does the same thing we did up here. We took 0 to 1, and we now flipped it so it goes from 1 to 0. But I don't want this value to be 1. I want this to be 0.1, like we had before. And then we just extend this so I can see what the hell I'm doing. And then I want to add another knot, make sure it's a B-spline. Let's bring the value to 0.1, and then let's bring it up here. So now this curve should represent the way that the profile of these hairs look. It's a little easier to understand that way. So I apologize for kind of fucking it up here. And then, so let's see, it should give me a little more control. Yeah, there we go. So it's working. So these are so they're like really fat until the last minute and then they get skinny. So let's actually just bring this down. The value should be, I don't know, let's bring this back a bit to here. See what that does. Come on, Redshift. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, do what I want. Ugh. Okay, here we go, initializing. Come on, fucking go. Okay, cool. So that is looking closer to what I want. So it's kind of thick at the bottom and then it gets thinner towards the top. Good enough for now, but you can play around with it. I mean, you could make it thin at the bottom and then you can have it get really thick towards the top. You can do whatever you want there, but you have complete control over it with this attribute remap. This is definitely a better way of doing it than the wrangle I was doing before. Wrangle, sometimes I'm kind of used to doing that now, but I actually prefer to do things, to use nodes that are given to me when they are given to me. I just kind of forgot about this one because I think it's somewhat of a newer node, maybe in one of the last versions. I need to get used to using it more. Great. Okay, so we have the profile of our hairs, but right now we have no color on them and we have no material on them. So let's pause this really quick and let's go just highlight this guy, go to render, material, and type /matte/hairs. So that is assigning it a material that does not exist yet. Let me go, just click this button and it takes us to the material context, to which I will set a quick mark by hitting Control 2. So I can go 1, 2, 1, 2. Great. And let's put down a material, an RS material builder. And we're going to call this hairs. So as long as I just name it the same thing that I just called it on the previous screen, then it'll just assign. And then I want to come in here and I want to put down an RS point attribute. And there's a few I want to bring in. So CD, color, is definitely one I want. That's going to give me my mask here. And then the other one I want is curve U. And then the last one I want is class. And although class is not a point attribute, it is a primitive attribute. So I want to come back up here and I want to go, let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's go attribute promote. Where's it at? Promote, yeah. So I want to take my original name, it's a primitive attribute. I want to take class, right? Because class should be no, class is a point attribute. I was wrong. What an idiot. Okay, so I don't need to do shit. Should be ready to go. Okay, Okay, so I've got my hairs. Let's start by plugging in the CD so we can see what this is doing. So let's just fire this back up. And it should be, the hairs should be all black and then the inside should be all white. Just like that. Great. So what we can do is we can use this as a mask between two materials or between two colors or whatever we want. Okay, so now let's try using the curve U. Let's put that in there and see what that does. Usually you need to refresh when you put that in there. So it should give me a color going along from the bottom up. And let's see, let me try putting a ramp there. And let's change this to Inferno. Yeah, there we go. So it's like more red towards the bottom and then yellow towards the top. And I can, I can adjust this. I can crush these up here so you can see more of the pink. So I can, that way I can give myself a black and white mask from the bottom up. I can color this based on sort of the length of these hairs. And then finally I have this class attribute, which I will plug in here. And let's see what that does. Hit refresh. Ugh, it's like just like destroying it. And I may need to remap. Let's see. I don't think it's going from 0 to 1. So you know what? I'm not even going to use this class one, so never mind. Fuck it. Get that out of there. I don't need it. Okay. First thing first, let's just design the look of this using the curve U attribute. So let's plug this back in. So let's see what I want it to look like. I think maybe I want the tips to be, maybe yellow could be kind of cool. Let's make this like blue. And let's bring this up so we can see, it. Something like that maybe could be cool. I don't know, I'll just play around with the colors. No, I don't know. Just something, you can just make whatever colors you want. I like using crazy colors because I like psychedelic looking shit that just like colors that clash and weird stuff. So I try to just pick crazy colors. Yeah, I don't know. That could be cool. Something like that. Maybe. No, or we can just try some of these little settings. Let's try plasma. That's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that. I'm just gonna use plasma. Make it red, reddish. Kind of bring this pink up like that. And maybe I'll make this guy more of a pale yellow like that. Okay, cool. So that'll be my kind of base color. Now I want these to be, let's make this maybe less, should I make it less rough or more rough? Let's make it just a little shiny. And then let's put on some, maybe some subsurface scattering to make them feel a little more like plasticky or something. And bring the scale of that down a bit. And let's make the color, I don't know, pink. Something like that. And let's bring this weight down. So let's bring it just a little bit. Maybe make it like a warm yellow. Yeah, something like that. So it's too much. Just a little bit. Okay, and then the other thing I can do is I can add some sheen to it, because I notice a lot of underwater stuff sort of has this like Fresnel around the outside of it to make it feel sort of like this soft, powdery. And I think that's, I don't know, I like the sheen works pretty well, but I actually prefer using the Fresnel node that Redshift gives you. Let me just plug this into the base color so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Turn this off and bring this down. So I have manual control over how white it gets. So like that. So you can see it's like white on the edges and black on the inside. And I can use this as a mask. So I'll take, I'll do color mix, and input 1 will be my original color that we just set up. Input 2 will be white, and my mix amount will be my Fresnel. There, that gives me a little more control over this, and I can just come middle mouse click, and it gives me the ladder with the tiny numbers, so I can really dial this in. Something like, let me try 0.8. That seems good. Another thing I can do is I can take a ramp and I can really like crush this in so that there's like a hard line between them. You see that? Now it's like a really harsh line. So I can do that. That's kind of cool. It makes it look kind of trippy. Just give me a little more definition there. And then I can change this color here from white to red or blue or whatever. So now that it sort of has this like, it's almost like an aura around it, which I kind of like that. I don't know, I think I kind of like the white actually, or maybe just kind of play around with what color I want. I don't know, something just close to white looks kind of cool to me. So there we have this sort of like this grass here, great. Now I want to play around with this mask that I've set up. So let's take all of these and move them, and let's do color mix, and we want the original color to be the first input, and then we'll use whatever color we choose here to be our second one, and then we'll use our CD attribute as our mix. And it didn't show up in here because for whatever reason when you use these particle, these RS point attribute things, you have to refresh the viewport in Redshift to get it to work. So give it a second, and this should turn white. Yep, there we go. It's working. So let's make this something cooler than that. Let's make it like a green or something that like really stands out, like pink. Actually, I kind of like the green. I don't know, orange, red. Yeah, the green's kind of cool. Yellow, green. And I can also, same thing, I can add a ramp and I can really make this, like take this white and just crank it up so that it's like really apparent. So that's kind of cool. The other thing I can do is let's put down another color mix node. And I want to take this guy again, and let's just plug him into the base color so I can see what I'm doing. And I really want it so that I get just this edge. So I'm going to bring the black up so that it just isolates just the edge that's like closest to the sphere. And I can use that as a different mask here. So let's plug this back in. Let's plug this here. And now I can change this to a different color. I can make it like yellow. So it's like yellow on the leading edge, and then it kind of turns to green. Or I can make it red or purple or whatever. Let's try yellow. I like that. And I can kind of play around with this even more to dial this in. So it's like it'll be kind of yellow near the sphere, and then it kind of fades to green behind it. That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, now that I'm seeing this vivid color here, I'm actually not super happy with the texturing on this guy. I don't like the colors. It's seems kind of washed out to me and lame. So let's bring this Fresnel down a little bit. Let's go 0.9, maybe 1, 2. That's a little better. So kind of get rid of the Fresnel a little bit, kind of helps. And I think maybe I want different colors. So let's try putting down a color correct. Sometimes I like to do this and just like throw it on there and then just move this hue shift around until I get a result I like. Like, that's kind of cool. I think that's feeling better. Something a little more vivid and contrasty. To contrast my green. Yeah, cool. That feels better. I like super vivid, bright colors. If you ever watch my work, it's all just like intense, fake colors that don't exist in nature because I like it and I want it. Okay, cool. So that's that. We have, and you can play around with this. You can also, you can use the curve view attribute more to, so where's my curve view attribute? It's this guy here. You can really just choke up on this thing and make just the tips really, really vivid, or do whatever you want. The other thing you can do is you can actually mix two materials here. So let's put down an RS standard material here. Just kind of showing you this for example. I think this will probably be my end result, but I just want to show you what you can do with a RS blender, RS material blender. So essentially this works the same way as these color mix nodes, but just with two different materials. So my regular material is the base, and then I'll use this new material that I haven't set up yet as my layer 1 color, and then my blend color will be I'm going to use my curve, my CD again. So layer 1, blend color 1. Okay, so that's cool. Let me just make this more apparent. Let's just bring this all the way down. So it's just turning gray because I haven't done anything to this yet. But let's make this let's put this to be kind of this orangey, like that. And let's turn the metalness up. Like we're making like it's turning into like a copper. Turn the roughness down, something like that. Maybe let's do bring it more into the yellow. That's kind of cool, right? So now you're blending between two materials. So it's like as the sphere moves through it, it's turning it into this gold material. That's kind of cool. Or you could make it rock or whatever the hell you want. But I don't want to do that. I think I just want to keep my original thing. I like that better. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's bring in the sphere. So let's go back up here. Let's just turn the sphere on, and it should enable it. And I think in my camera, I want to go to redshift camera, optical, and change this to filmic. Woo! Make it and bring the exposure down just a little bit. But I want this to be nice and bright. And then let's also let's try and move this around, the light around. See if that does anything cool. If it casts any shadows or anything, or if I can kind of change it to be a little more dramatic. I mean, I'll probably change the lighting for the final thing anyway. I just want to, sometimes it helps to, while you're lighting something, to get it to be a little more dramatic. I don't know, whatever. That's fine for now. Okay, so then on our sphere, let's go to render, hit /matte/water. Okay, and then click this arrow. I don't know if you can hear, my cat is playing with this super annoying toy in the background right now, so I apologize if that is annoying, but too bad. RS material. No, I don't want that. I want RS material builder. Where is it? This guy. And let's call this water. And as soon as I name it that, it's going to apply it there. And it's super basic. Let's just make this basically refractive. So let's turn down the base, and let's turn up the transmission all the way. And then let's just hit refresh. And that should make it clear. Cool, so now we have this water droplet. I think the roughness is too much. I want it to feel more like there shouldn't be really any roughness on a water droplet. Maybe a tiny bit. And let's maybe we just put some subsurface scattering on it just a little bit. Let's bring the transmission down a bit so that the subsurface comes through. And let's make this blue. Let's try bringing the scale down. It's kind of cool. If we bring the transmission down, it's kind of about finding a balance between the two. I want it to be kind of clear, but kind of blue at the same time. Okay, that's cool. And then we have UVs on this if we wanted to UV it, but I don't think I really want to right now. I think this is fine. Okay, so the next thing, let's go back here and let's bring in these inner spheres. Great, there they are. And what I want to do, let's pause this actually, is, earlier I tried, let me hide other objects. So I have this class attribute, right? And you saw earlier when I tried to bring in my class attribute to Redshift, it wasn't working. And it's because these are random attributes and they're not in a 0 to 1. They go from 0 to 50. You see this here, 0 to 50, and it's it needs to be in sort of a 0 to 1 range. So what I can do actually to get this to work, because I want to use this class attribute here to sort of color each of these a different color. So let's just put down a color node, and let's go ramp or random from attribute, and the attribute is class. And then if we stop visualizing class, there. So now we can just play around with this. So now it's from, if you go to CD, you've just got random colors. So now I can just bring that attribute into my Redshift. So let's go back to this. Let's type RS material builder, and let's call it balls. And I can just drag this onto this, and that will assign it. If I go to sphere inner and I go to render, it just has matte balls. It's like just another quick way of doing it. Okay, so let's bring this back up. Fire it up again. Let's change this back to camera 1. Let's go to balls, and let's bring in an RS point attribute, and it's already set to CD, which is what we want. We just set up our color attribute. Let's put this in here, and they're going to turn black because I need to refresh this. Ugh. There, now I have random colors based on this. And what I can do is I can just do RS, let's do RS color correct. Put this in, and let me change the saturation scale to like 3 or 4, so they're like really saturated, and do a hue shift. I'm not really liking that. This color combo, it kind of feels very like, I don't know, clown-like with these. So let's actually just put down a ramp, and I can just choose like Viridis or two-tone. No. Well, plasma. I do like the plasma. Infrared's kind of cool. Magma. That's kind of fun. Okay, and then let's put down RS color correct. It's kind of cool. And then let's shift the hue a little bit. Make them, I don't know, let's bring the saturation up. And then let's make these like, let's turn the roughness down so that they're super shiny. I don't know, that could be cool. What's the level scale do? Ooh, that's fun. There we go. That brightens them up a bit. So let's bring the levels up so they just kind of stand out. Maybe yeah, maybe something like that. I don't know. Just kind of playing around with these different values till I get something I think looks cool. Okay, let's go back up to the water droplet, and maybe let's add in some dispersion as well. So let's go to, here we go, dispersion. Make it feel a little more, the lower the value, I think the more dispersion you get. So it gives you this like almost iridescent look, which I think is pretty cool. Something like that. That seems pretty fun. Great. Okay, finally, let's adjust our lighting a bit. So let me just kind of come out here. And I do like this one here. Let me just try increasing the intensity a bit. Maybe that's too intense. Let's try putting down another, just a key light here that really catches the highlights or catches the edges or something. So let's put this like that. Let's kind of come over here. That's feeling better already. Hi, cat. My cat is now on my desk, walking across me like she owns me. Okay, bring the intensity down. So I'm just kind of basically creating a rim light here that's just kind of giving me some extra, making it a little more dramatic. This doesn't really feel like it's underwater. I mean, it's fine. I'm just kind of playing around with the lighting here. If you want to see how to make it look like it's underwater, you can watch my aquatic caustic lighting tutorial that's also on my Patreon here. And let's try bringing this like down. I don't know. Also, if you hit M on the keyboard, you can change the orientation of the little gizmo. So I want to hit it here and just kind of like, I don't know, maybe try and bring it this way. Just see what that does. That's kind of nice. I think I liked it the way I had it before. Over here, and let's try bringing temperature. Let's make it like as warm, as cool. I think I want it somewhat cool. Oops, shit. And then let's grab it again. Hit M until I get the orientation I want. Yeah, so I think that's better. So if I have it on, let me just color this yellow so I can see that it's a light. So I've got on. So this is off. Let me take a picture and then we turn it back on. So off, on. I think on is better. It just brightens it up a little bit, catches a little more of those highlights, makes it feel a little more fun. Okay, cool. And then the last thing I want to do is I think I probably want to animate the camera to follow along this just a little bit, and then add some depth of field so that it kind of feels like we're really in close. So the way I want to add in depth of field, let's make this nice and big so I can see it and so that you can too. Let's go bokeh, enable legacy DOF, and turn that off. And then let's bring the aperture way down to like, yeah, 1.8. And then I need to bring the exposure down as well to match that. And then I click this little guy here and just focus on that. Cool, and I think I can bring my aperture down even more. Let's see, let's bring the exposure down a bit to match. Maybe even more. Make it feel like really macro. Let's see. That's kind of cool. I think I want it to be just a little less macro. Maybe like, let's go 0.5. And then bring this up visually till it looks nice, something like that. And the focus should be right there. Okay, that's feeling better, like we're a little closer to it. I'm digging that. Okay, let's click this off. Let me just shut this down here and we can animate our camera. So let's go to frame 24. And let's just move our camera. Oops, I need to be back in my camera and I need to lock it. And I'm gonna come over here. Actually, I don't want it to be, I need it to be in a little bit. So like that, right? Okay, so it's camera. Let's go to transform. Let's just hit Alt and click that to get all of them. And then we'll go to frame, I think it's 192 when it stops. And we'll go, just kind of move over like that. And then that and that. And then we'll come into here and I want to highlight the camera so I get everything. Hit H on the keyboard to sort of frame all these, grab them all and make it linear. So it should follow this. Let's start this up and just see what it does. I want it to kind of follow along slowly, but then I want the ball to eventually sort of leave the frame. And that is doing it. And then let me just, one thing I want to do, I might want to animate the focus just in case. So let's fire this back up. So let's come to the first frame of our animation. Fire it up. Let's make sure our focus is on the sphere. And then go to camera. Let's go to redshift camera and then just put a keyframe on the focus distance. And then we go to the last frame of our animation. Refresh it. And let's animate the focus to be here. So the focus kind of follows the sphere and then just hit that. Let's hit shift and make that linear as well. So now if I come to the middle of the animation, the focus should still be on the sphere because it's just a linear animation, or near it. Yep, great. Okay, so that is pretty much that. That's pretty much the tutorial. That's what I did. It's fun. You can play around with it. You can mess with the colors. You can mess with the materials. It's a very, very simple thing to do, but the results are super fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.